Imagine a world where history's most solid timelines shatter, where forgotten civilizations whisper secrets from impossible depths. What if everything you thought you knew about ancient human ingenuity was wrong? Tonight, we unearth 5 impossible discoveries, from a wooden god carved 12,000 years ago in a Siberian bog, to a Roman head found buried in an Aztec tomb a millennium before Columbus, objects that defy every official timeline. These aren't theories, they are tangible proof, challenging the very foundations of human history. Prepare to have your understanding of our past irrevocably changed. The conventional historical timeline, which most of us learned in school, paints a picture of human progress as a relatively linear ascent. We are taught that our ancestors moved from simple, hunter-gatherer societies to agricultural communities, then developed cities, writing, and eventually complex civilizations. This narrative, built on centuries of archaeological and historical research, provides a comforting framework for understanding our past, offering a clear progression from stone tools to space travel. We trust this timeline because it is supported by vast amounts of evidence, meticulously catalogued and cross-referenced by experts across the globe. However, within this carefully constructed edifice of knowledge, there exist certain discoveries, certain artifacts, that simply refuse to fit. They are anomalies, outliers that challenge our most fundamental assumptions about when, where, and how humanity developed. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on 5 such impossible discoveries that were never supposed to exist. Imagine a wooden statue, twice as old as the Great Pyramids, perfectly preserved in a Russian peat bog through sheer chemical accident. Picture haunting plaster figures with black bitumen eyes, buried beneath the floors of a 9,000-year-old megacity that literally burned itself into extinction. Envision a mountain plateau in Peru, covered in stone faces so precise that scientists still cannot agree whether nature or human hands created them. Consider 5,000 elite Roman soldiers who marched into the mists of Britain and vanished from every record, leaving behind nothing but a few stamped tiles. And finally, contemplate a tiny Roman head, dated to the 2nd century AD, found sealed inside an Aztec grave 1,000 years before Columbus ever set sail. These are not theories or speculative musings. These are tangible objects you can touch, bones you can test, and gaps in history that steadfastly refuse to close. What you are about to hear will fundamentally challenge the neat timeline of human civilization, prompting a re-evaluation of our understanding of human capabilities and interconnections across millennia. Modern scientific dating methods form the bedrock of our historical timeline, providing a quantitative framework for understanding the age of artifacts and sites. Radiocarbon dating, for instance, revolutionized archaeology by allowing scientists to determine the age of organic materials up to tens of thousands of years old with remarkable precision. This method relies on the predictable decay of carbon-14, an unstable isotope absorbed by all living organisms. Once an organism dies, it ceases to absorb carbon-14, and the isotope begins to decay at a known rate. By measuring the remaining carbon-14, scientists can calculate the time elapsed since the organism's death. Beyond radiocarbon, other techniques like thermoluminescence dating are employed for inorganic materials such as pottery and burnt flint, while dendrochronology, or tree ring dating, offers incredibly precise annual dating for wooden structures. These methods, meticulously calibrated and cross-validated, generally provide a highly reliable chronology. When faced with anomalous findings, historians and archaeologists typically approach them with a blend of skepticism and rigorous scientific inquiry. The initial reaction is often to seek conventional explanations, such as misidentification, contamination, or even outright hoax. Every possible avenue for error is explored, from the sampling process to the laboratory analysis. If the anomaly persists after exhaustive scrutiny, the data is then re-evaluated in the context of existing knowledge. Sometimes, a single anomalous discovery can trigger a complete re-examination of a particular historical period or technological development. It forces the academic community to confront the limitations of their current models and to consider alternative interpretations, even if they challenge long-held beliefs. These discoveries, rather than being dismissed outright, become catalysts for new research questions and deeper investigations into the complexities of our past. These particular discoveries matter profoundly for our understanding of human civilization because they force us to confront the possibility that the story we tell ourselves about our past is incomplete, perhaps even fundamentally flawed. They suggest that ancient humans possessed capabilities, knowledge, and connections that far exceed what our conventional timelines currently allow. If people were carving monumental art during the Ice Age, if they were engaging in complex chemical engineering thousands of years before the accepted dawn of civilization, or if transoceanic contact occurred millennia earlier than previously thought, then the entire narrative of human development needs to be rewritten. These anomalies are not just curiosities, they are critical pieces of a larger, more intricate puzzle, hinting at a human history that is far richer, stranger, and more interconnected than we have ever dared to imagine. Approximately 12,000 years ago, while woolly mammoths still roamed the frozen plains of Siberia, someone carved a god into a tree, and against all odds, it survived. To understand the magnitude of this artifact, one must first grasp the chemistry of decay. In the natural world, biology adheres to a strict rule: everything that lives must eventually be broken down. When a tree falls in a forest, fungi, bacteria, and insects immediately set to work, disassembling the complex cellulose and elastin structures of the wood, returning its nutrients to the soil. In a temperate forest, a massive tree trunk might last a few decades before crumbling into dust. In a tropical rainforest, it could vanish in just a few years. This relentless and universal cycle of life, however, finds exceptions in specific environments where the clock of decay effectively stops. Peat bogs are precisely such chemical anomalies, natural pickling jars where organic matter can be preserved for millennia. These unique wetlands are dominated by sphagnum moss, which, as it grows, releases hydrogen ions into the water, creating a highly acidic environment. Crucially, the water in these bogs is also stagnant and thus oxygen-deprived or anaerobic. This combination of acidity and anoxia inhibits the bacteria and fungi that typically break down wood, effectively freezing organic material in time. It was within such an environment, in the Ural Mountains about 100 kilometers from Yekaterinburg, that the Shigir idol was discovered. In the late 19th century, around 1890, the industrial world's hunger for resources led miners to dig into the earth of the Shigir peat bog, not for history but for gold. They were cutting through thick layers of peat, that dense, soggy, decaying plant matter, to reach the gravel layers below where gold deposits settled. On January 24, 1890, at a depth of 4 meters, roughly 13 feet down, the gold miners struck something hard. It was neither rock nor gold, but wood. They carefully extracted large, heavy fragments of a carved tree trunk. Initially it appeared to be merely old, dark and stained lumber, discoloured by the tannins in the peat. However, as they cleaned off the mud, they realised this was no accident of nature. This was intentional. Someone had taken a massive larch tree, split it, smoothed its surfaces, and meticulously carved faces and intricate symbols into it. At the time, the full significance of their discovery was beyond comprehension. The object, now known as the Shigir idol, was transported to a museum in Yekaterinburg, where it remained a curiosity for over a century. Early assumptions placed its age at a few hundred years, perhaps dating back to the local indigenous Mansi people, viewed simply as an unusual wooden pole. Yet its true mind-bending reality would only be revealed once modern scientific techniques caught up with the artifact. The initial dating controversies surrounding the Shigir idol stemmed from its unexpected age, which challenged prevailing archaeological theories. It wasn't until 1997 that scientists undertook radiocarbon dating of the wood. Radiocarbon dating works by measuring the decay of carbon-14, an isotope that all living things absorb throughout their lives. Upon an organism's death, carbon-14 intake ceases, and the isotope begins to decay at a predictable rate. By quantifying the remaining carbon-14, researchers can determine the time of death. The initial results were met with disbelief within the archaeological community, returning a date of 9,500 years. This figure was deemed impossible, as the conventional understanding posited that humans 9,500 years ago were simple hunter-gatherers, preoccupied with survival, not creating monumental 5-meter-tall statues, the height of a 2-story building. Skepticism led many experts to suggest errors in dating, perhaps due to dating the older inner heartwood of the tree rather than the outer growth rings, which would skew the results. The mystery remained in limbo for 2 decades. The latest dating results, however, definitively showcase the idol's astonishing antiquity, making it far older than previously thought. In 2018, a collaborative team of German and Russian scientists resolved to settle the debate using Advanced Accelerator Mass Spectrometry, or AMS. Unlike standard radiocarbon dating, which measures the radiation emitted by decaying atoms, AMS directly counts the atoms themselves, offering unparalleled precision. They meticulously selected samples from the outermost layers of the wood, the part of the tree that was actively growing at the moment it was felled. The results were nothing short of revolutionary, shattering the existing timeline of human history. The Shigir idol was not 9,500 years old. It was approximately 1,200 years old. To contextualize this number, which is difficult to grasp, this wooden statue was carved at the very end of the last ice age. It is more than twice the age of the Great Pyramid of Giza and predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years. In fact, by the time the pyramids were being constructed, the Shigir idol was already an ancient relic, older to the Egyptians than the pyramids are to us today. It was created before the extinction of the woolly mammoth in mainland Siberia and predates the invention of writing, the wheel, and even agriculture in this region. The analysis of preservation conditions in acidic peat bogs reveals why this object, a statistical miracle, has survived. Wood is an ephemeral material. 99.9% of all wooden objects crafted by our ancestors have long since rotted away. The Shigir idol stands as the sole survivor of its kind, a relic from a lost world of biodegradable art. Had it been dropped just 10 meters to either side, outside that precise chemical sweet spot within the peat bog, it would have disintegrated into soil thousands of years ago. The material itself provides insight into the technical expertise of its creators. The idol was carved from the trunk of a larch tree, a species renowned for its exceptional toughness and resin content, properties that likely contributed to its remarkable preservation. Dendrochronological analysis indicates the tree was at least 159 years old when it was cut down, meaning it began growing nearly 12,300 years ago. This suggests the creators did not merely scavenge a fallen branch, but purposefully selected a massive ancient tree, felled it with stone tools, and processed it while the wood was still fresh. A detailed examination of the carved symbols and faces on the idol provides profound insights into the minds of its creators. When the fragments were first reassembled by Professor Dmitry Lobanov in 1914, the idol originally stood 5.3 meters tall. Tragically, during the tumultuous 20th century, likely during the Russian Revolution or World War II, the lower section, approximately 2 meters of the idol, went missing, probably destroyed or lost in storage. Today, the idol stands at about 3.4 meters, but original drawings confirm its complete structure. This monumental scale is crucial because it fundamentally alters our perception of Mesolithic people. The conventional historical narrative posits that monumental architecture, the construction of large-scale structures, only emerged after sedentary agricultural societies developed cities, arguing that a food surplus and a large workforce were prerequisites for such artistic endeavours. Hunter-gatherers were typically seen as too preoccupied with survival to create giant sculptures. The Shigir idol unequivocally refutes this notion. These people, living in the austere post-glacial forests of the Urals, possessed the social organisation, stability, and cultural drive necessary to create a massive, complex monument. The environment around them was undergoing rapid transformation 12,000 years ago. As glaciers retreated and the landscape shifted from tundra to a rich, diverse forest ecosystem, the cultural implications for Ice Age human capabilities are immense. The idol features 7 faces, with the uppermost being a 3-dimensional head, while the others are flat, abstract representations. The body of the idol is covered with geometric motifs, zigzags, chevrons, and wavy lines. While the precise meaning of these symbols remains elusive, archaeologists speculate they represent elements of their cosmology, perhaps depicting spirits, gods, or even a creation myth. The 7 faces could symbolize a lineage, a pantheon of deities, or different aspects of the natural world. This level of symbolic complexity suggests sophisticated abstract thought and a rich spiritual life, far beyond what was previously attributed to Mesolithic hunter-gatherers. The presence of such a monumental and intricately carved object indicates a settled, stable community with a surplus of resources and time for artistic and ritualistic expression. it challenges the long-held assumption that complex social structures and symbolic art only emerged with the advent of agriculture. The Shigir idol forces us to reconsider the intellectual and cultural sophistication of our distant ancestors, proving that even at the dawn of the Holocene, humanity was capable of profound artistic and spiritual endeavours. The technical analysis of tool marks on the Shigir idol provides direct evidence of advanced woodworking capabilities during the Mesolithic period. Microscopic examination of the idol's surface reveals distinct V-shaped grooves and parallel striations, characteristic of tools made from stone. Specifically, the marks suggest the use of sharpened stone adzes and chisels, likely crafted from flint or obsidian. The precision and uniformity of these marks indicate not only skilled craftsmanship but also a mastery of the material itself. Felling such a massive larch tree with stone axes would have been an arduous task, requiring sustained effort and a deep understanding of wood grain. The subsequent splitting, smoothing, and intricate carving of the trunk into its final form demonstrates a level of technical proficiency previously thought to be absent in this era. The carvers were able to achieve remarkably smooth surfaces and intricate details, suggesting they possessed not just rudimentary tools, but a sophisticated understanding of how to use them effectively to manipulate wood. While the Shigir idol stands as a singular testament to Mesolithic woodworking, it is important to compare it with other, albeit less monumental examples from the period. Across various Mesolithic sites in Europe, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of wooden implements, though often in fragmented or poorly preserved states. These include wooden paddles, bows, arrows, and even fragments of canoes, typically found in waterlogged environments like bogs or ancient lake beds. For instance, in northern Europe, sites like Starkar in England have yielded well-preserved wooden platforms and barbed points, while in Scandinavia, remnants of dugout canoes attest to early watercraft technology. These discoveries, while not as grand as the Shigir idol, collectively demonstrate a widespread competence in working with wood for various utilitarian purposes. The idol, however, elevates this competence to an artistic and monumental scale, pushing the boundaries of what was believed possible for the available tools and techniques 12,500 years ago. The people of the Mesolithic were not just chipping away at stone, they were shaping their environment with a sophisticated grasp of carpentry and design. The discussion of available tools and techniques 12,500 years ago reveals a surprising level of ingenuity. Mesolithic toolkits were predominantly composed of microliths, small geometrically shaped stone blades that could be hafted onto wooden shafts to create composite tools. These microliths, along with larger flakes and cores, formed the cutting and scraping edges of their implements. To carve something as large and detailed as the Shigir idol, specialized tools would have been necessary. Adzes, with their cutting edge perpendicular to the handle, would have been used for broad shaping and hollowing, while chisels driven by mallets would have allowed for finer detail work. Abrasive stones and even sand might have been used for smoothing and polishing the surfaces. The act of felling a large tree with stone axes would have been a labour-intensive process, likely involving repeated striking and charring to weaken the wood fibres. The precision of the carvings on the idol suggests not only sharp tools but also a practiced hand, indicating a tradition of woodworking that implies knowledge passed down through generations. The evidence of complex symbolic thinking in early humans, particularly as manifested in the Shigir idol, fundamentally challenges previous assumptions. The idol is not merely a functional object, it is an elaborate artistic creation imbued with symbolic meaning. The multiple faces, the geometric patterns, and the sheer scale of the object all point to a rich inner world and a complex belief system. The act of carving, especially over an extended period, suggests ritualistic significance and a shared understanding of the idol's purpose within the community. These are not just random doodles, but deliberate artistic expressions, conveying narratives or cosmological ideas. The presence of such intricate symbolism indicates that Mesolithic people possess sophisticated cognitive abilities, including abstract thought, planning, and the capacity for transmitting complex cultural information. They were not simply reacting to their environment, they were actively interpreting and shaping it through their art and beliefs. Ultimately, the Shigir idol presents a profound challenge to assumptions about prehistoric technological capabilities. For decades, the narrative of human technological progress has been heavily biased towards stone and bone artifacts, simply because these materials survive best in the archaeological record. The idol forces us to acknowledge a wood age that has largely vanished, leaving behind only tantalizing glimpses. If such a monumental and intricately carved wooden object could be created 12,500 years ago, it implies that the technological and artistic capabilities of Mesolithic societies were far more advanced than previously understood. It suggests that many of the skills we associate with later periods, such as complex planning, specialized tool use, and sophisticated symbolic expression, were already present at the end of the last ice age. This single artifact compels us to reconsider the entire trajectory of human technological development, suggesting that the primitive label often applied to prehistoric cultures may be a significant underestimation, born more from the limitations of preservation than from the true capabilities of our ancestors. In 1933, archaeologist José García Payón was meticulously excavating a burial site in the Tuxtla Valley of Mexico, approximately 65 kilometers west of Mexico City. The site, known as Calixtlahuaca, was an Aztec-era settlement. Payón, a diligent researcher, was carefully documenting layers of soil, pottery and gold ornaments when he made an astonishing discovery. Underneath a set of sealed, intact floors, indicating that the grave had been undisturbed since its original closure, he unearthed a small terracotta head, roughly the size of a fist. This head presented an immediate and profound problem. It depicted a figure with a beard, a mustache, and a prominent aquiline nose. In pre-Columbian Mesoamerican art, beards were virtually non-existent, as indigenous men in the region typically have sparse facial hair, a characteristic reflected in their artistic conventions, which favoured smooth-faced figures. Furthermore, the stylistic features of this head, the deeply set eyes, the texture of the hair and the cap, bore no resemblance to Aztec, Maya or Toltec art. Instead, it strikingly resembled a Roman artifact, specifically a Hellenistic Roman figurine of the type produced in the 2nd century AD. Payón was baffled by his find. He catalogued it and placed it in storage, its profound implications not fully grasped at the time. It was not until decades later that art historians had the opportunity to examine the artifact closely, and their assessment confirmed the initial impression. Functionally, stylistically, and aesthetically, this was indeed a Roman artifact. Its features aligned perfectly with the grotesque figurines often found in Pompeii or Rome. However, the chronology was impossible. The grave itself dated to the post-classic period, roughly between 1476 and 1510 AD, just prior to the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors. The head itself appeared to be from around 200 AD, and it was discovered in an undisturbed, sealed context. This crucial detail immediately ruled out the possibility of a modern hoax or a later colonial introduction. If Payón's meticulous field notes were accurate, and there is no reason to doubt his integrity, the head was in the ground before Hernán Cortés ever set foot in the Americas. The question loomed, how did a 2nd century Roman toy end up in a 15th century Aztec grave? The implications for historians were staggering, suggesting transoceanic contact occurred more than 1,000 years before Christopher Columbus's voyage. The authentication processes and material analysis were critical in addressing the mystery of the Roman-style head. To move beyond stylistic comparisons and subjective assessments, scientific dating was essential. In 1995, a team from the University of Heidelberg and the Max Planck Institute undertook thermoluminescence (TL) dating of the artifact. Thermoluminescence dating is a technique specifically used for pottery. When clay is fired in a kiln, it releases all its stored energy in the form of light. Over time, the clay slowly absorbs radiation from its environment. By reheating a sample and measuring the light it emits, scientists can calculate the time elapsed since the object was last fired. The results of the TL dating were stunning. The head was determined to be approximately 1800 years old. The firing date range spanned from the 9th century BC to the mid-13th century AD, with the highest probability centered on the Roman era, around 200 AD. This scientific confirmation effectively eliminated any theories of the head being a modern colonial Spanish doll or a deliberate fake. The clay itself was undeniably ancient. Thus, the presence of a Roman-era object in a pre-Columbian Mexican grave was scientifically validated. A comparative study with known Roman artifacts further solidified the head's authenticity. Experts in Roman art and archaeology, upon examining photographs and casts of the Calyx head, consistently identified its stylistic elements as unequivocally Roman. The rendering of the beard, the specific shape of the nose, the detailed eyes, and the overall physiognomy align perfectly with small terracotta figurines produced in the Roman Empire during the 2nd century AD, particularly those found in Hellenistic and Roman contexts in the Mediterranean basin. These were common household items, often used as votive offerings, toys, or decorative pieces. The striking resemblance to known Roman examples makes it incredibly difficult to argue that an indigenous artist in Mesoamerica independently developed a style so uncannily similar to that of the Roman Empire, especially given the distinct artistic traditions prevalent in pre-Columbian Mexico. The uniqueness of this artifact within the Mesoamerican archaeological record underscores its foreign origin. The examination of possible trade routes between Rome and Mesoamerica presents a significant challenge to conventional historical understanding. While there is ample archaeological evidence for extensive Roman trade networks across Europe, Asia, and Africa, direct contact with the Americas is not typically acknowledged in mainstream historical narratives. The sheer geographical distance and the technological limitations of ancient seafaring would have made regular, organised trade routes across the Atlantic extraordinarily difficult. Roman ships, while robust for Mediterranean and coastal voyages, were not designed for transoceanic crossings. Therefore, the presence of the Roman head cannot be easily explained by established trade routes. This leads to alternative theories about its presence. The most scientifically plausible non-conspiracy explanation, often termed the drift theory, suggests an accidental transatlantic journey. Oceanographers have modelled currents in the Atlantic, demonstrating that it is theoretically possible for a derelict Roman ship or even significant wreckage to be caught in the North Equatorial Current. This current flows from the Canary Islands off the coast of Africa directly towards the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. Such a journey would have taken months, and the crew would almost certainly have perished, but the ship and its cargo could realistically wash ashore. Imagine indigenous people discovering a strange vessel, with foreign bodies and exotic goods, a durable terracotta head, perhaps seen as a powerful object of magic or an intriguing curiosity, would likely be taken. It could then have been traded inland from the coast up to the highlands of Tuxtla, passed down as a sacred heirloom for perhaps 50 generations, eventually being buried with a local lord around 1500 AD. Another, less common, alternative theory involves a Norse transmission. We know that Vikings reached Newfoundland around 1000 AD. It is conceivable that Norse raiders in Europe could have plundered Roman ruins, acquiring such trinkets. These items might then have been carried across the Atlantic to their North American settlements, and, through centuries of subsequent trade down the vast Mississippi River network, eventually reached Mexico. However, there is no archaeological evidence to support this specific chain of events. Finally, one must consider the possibility of coincidence, that a native artist simply created a face that happened to look Roman. While thermoluminescence dating confirms the clay is ancient, it does not specify its geographical origin. However, the complete lack of any other similar heads in Mexico, combined with the precise stylistic match to Roman artifacts, makes this explanation highly improbable. The Tuxtla head remains a singular point of data, a black swan in the archaeological record. It sits in a museum in Tuxtla, a silent defiance of the established timeline, forcing us to accept that the oceans were not insurmountable walls but potentially accidental highways, and that history is far more porous than we admit. The historical evidence for pre-Columbian transatlantic travel, while scarce and often controversial, is not entirely absent. Beyond the well-documented Norse expeditions to Newfoundland around 1000 AD, various accounts and archaeological findings hint at earlier, less definitive contacts. Classical Greek and Roman texts, for instance, contain vague references to lands beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar, sometimes described as fertile islands or a vast continent. While these are often dismissed as mythical, they reflect an awareness, however nebulous, of a world beyond the immediate Mediterranean. More concretely, the discovery of the Roman-style head in Mexico provides a tangible, if singular, piece of archaeological evidence suggesting at least one instance of Roman-era material culture reaching the Americas. This artifact, dated to the 2nd century AD, stands as a stark challenge to the conventional narrative of isolated pre-Columbian development. The analysis of other potential Roman artifacts in the Americas, however, has largely been met with skepticism or outright debunking. Over the years, numerous claims of Roman coins, pottery, or even statuary found in various parts of the Americas have surfaced. Many of these have been proven to be hoaxes, later introductions by European colonists, or misidentifications of indigenous artifacts. For example, some alleged Roman coins have turned out to be colonial coinage or even modern fakes. The rigorous authentication process applied to the Tuxtla head, including thermoluminescence dating and stylistic analysis by Roman art experts, sets it apart from these other contested claims. Its sealed context within an undisturbed Aztec grave further strengthens its credibility, making it exceptionally difficult to dismiss. Therefore, while the Tuxtla head remains largely unique in its validated antiquity and context, it serves as a powerful reminder that conventional archaeology may have overlooked or dismissed other genuine, albeit less conclusive, evidence in the past. A crucial aspect of transatlantic contact theories involves the discussion of ocean current patterns and historical navigation capabilities. While Roman ships were not designed for open ocean voyages, the Atlantic Ocean has a predictable system of currents that could facilitate accidental crossings. The North Equatorial Current, for instance, originates near the Canary Islands and flows westward across the Atlantic towards the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. A derelict vessel, perhaps blown off course by a storm or incapacitated by damage, could theoretically be caught in this current and drift across the ocean. Such a journey would be long and perilous, likely resulting in the loss of all crew, but the ship and its durable cargo could conceivably wash ashore. Similarly, the North Atlantic Current flows from North America towards Europe, potentially facilitating eastbound drift. While intentional Roman navigation across the Atlantic is highly improbable, given their shipbuilding technology and navigational instruments, the possibility of accidental drift, carrying artifacts or even survivors, cannot be entirely discounted when considering anomalous finds like the Tuxtla head. Archaeological evidence of other cross-cultural contacts provides a broader context for evaluating transatlantic theories. There is well-established evidence of extensive trade and cultural exchange across vast distances in antiquity, particularly within the Old World. The Silk Road, for example, facilitated the movement of goods, ideas and technologies between Rome and China. Similarly, maritime trade routes connected the Roman Empire with India and East Africa. These networks demonstrate that ancient societies were far more interconnected than often assumed, and that long-distance travel, while challenging, was not entirely impossible. Within the Americas, extensive trade networks also existed, moving goods like obsidian, jade, and feathers across vast territories. These examples highlight the human capacity for long-distance interaction and the potential for objects to travel far from their point of origin, even if the specific mechanisms of transatlantic exchange remain highly speculative for the Roman period. Scientific analysis of artifact materials and manufacturing methods plays a pivotal role in distinguishing genuine anomalies from misidentifications or hoaxes. For the Tuxtla head, the thermoluminescence dating confirmed the ancient age of the clay, ruling out a modern origin. Further material analysis, if feasible, could potentially identify the specific clay composition and compare it to known Roman clay sources. Such analysis could provide definitive proof of its Mediterranean origin. Beyond the Tuxtla head, other potential transatlantic artifacts, such as alleged Roman coins, could be subjected to metallurgical analysis to confirm their composition and compare it to known Roman coinage. The presence of specific alloys or manufacturing techniques characteristic of Roman mints would lend significant weight to their authenticity. However, the challenge often lies in accessing these artifacts for destructive testing, as museums and collectors are often reluctant to allow it. Nevertheless, rigorous scientific scrutiny of materials and manufacturing processes remains the most reliable path to verifying claims of pre-Columbian transatlantic contact and separating genuine anomalies from historical noise. The 9th Hispanic Legion, or Legionam Hispana, stands as one of the most enduring mysteries in Roman military history. Historical records provide a clear, albeit fragmented, picture of its existence and early campaigns. Formed by Pompey in 65 BC, it was later integrated into Julius Caesar's legions and played a crucial role in the Gallic Wars and Caesar's civil war against Pompey. Its cognomen, Hispana, likely refers to its service in Hispania, modern Spain, during the early imperial period. The legion was known for its loyalty and effectiveness, participating in numerous significant campaigns across the Roman Empire. Its presence is well attested in written sources and archaeological finds, including stamped tiles and inscriptions, confirming its participation in the conquest of Britain under Emperor Claudius in 43 AD. The last known locations and military assignments of the 9th Legion place it firmly in Roman Britain. After its initial involvement in the conquest, the Legion was stationed at various forts, including Longthorpe and Newton-on-Trent, before eventually being moved north to Eboracum, modern York, around 71 AD. From York, it played a key role in suppressing local rebellions and establishing Roman control over northern Britain, including campaigns into what is now Scotland. The Legion's presence in Britain is well documented through numerous archaeological finds, such as lead seals, pottery stamps, and tombstones bearing its insignia. However, after approximately 108 AD, references to the 9th Legion in Britain become increasingly scarce. Its name disappears from the legionary lists in the early 2nd century AD, creating a historical vacuum that has fueled centuries of speculation. The last definitive mention of the 9th in Britain comes from an inscription in York, dated to 108 AD. After this point, the Legion simply vanishes from the British record. The analysis of battlefield archaeology in Britain and Germany has been crucial in attempting to trace the 9th Legion's fate. Extensive archaeological excavations across northern Britain have yielded abundant evidence of Roman military presence, including forts, roads, and battle sites. While these sites provide a rich picture of Roman military life, they have not produced any definitive evidence of a mass casualty event or a major defeat that would explain the disappearance of an entire legion. Similarly, archaeological work in Germany, particularly along the Rhine frontier where some historians hypothesize the legion may have been transferred, has also failed to yield conclusive evidence of the 9th's presence or demise. The absence of a large-scale battlefield or mass grave associated with the 9th Legion in Britain or elsewhere is a significant puzzle, as the loss of 5,000 elite soldiers would typically leave a substantial archaeological footprint. Theories about the Legion's disappearance are numerous and varied, ranging from dramatic destruction to quiet dissolution. One popular theory, heavily romanticised in fiction like Rosemary Sutcliffe's The Eagle of the Ninth, posits that the Legion marched north into Caledonia, Scotland, during a punitive expedition against rebellious tribes and was completely annihilated, swallowed by the mists and unforgiving landscape. While a dramatic defeat is plausible, the complete lack of archaeological evidence for such a catastrophe makes it difficult to prove. Another theory suggests that the Legion was transferred from Britain to another frontier of the Empire, perhaps to the Rhine, or even the East, to bolster defences against new threats. Under this scenario, the Legion could have been gradually depleted in subsequent campaigns, its remnants absorbed into other legions and its unique identity lost. Finally, a less dramatic but perhaps more likely theory suggests a quiet disbandment due to disgrace or simply through attrition. If the Legion performed poorly or mutinied, it could have been officially disbanded, its name erased from active roles, and its soldiers dispersed. The Roman army was not above erasing units from history if they brought shame upon the empire. Modern archaeological evidence and new discoveries continue to shed light on the mystery, though a definitive answer remains elusive. For instance, archaeological finds of tiles stamped with Legn His in Nijmegen, Netherlands, dating to around 120 AD, initially led some to believe the Legion was transferred to continental Europe. However, these finds are often interpreted as evidence that a detachment of the 9th was sent to Nijmegen to construct a fort, rather than the entire Legion being permanently stationed there. More recent research, particularly the analysis of Roman skeletons found in York, shows a high diversity of origins, with men from Africa, the Danube, and the Mediterranean dying in Britain. This indicates the cosmopolitan nature of the Roman army, but doesn't directly address the fate of the 9th. The absence of a mass grave for the 9th Legion remains a profound archaeological silence. It forces us to consider that perhaps the Legion suffered a fate worse than death: disgrace. If the Legion fled from battle or mutinied, the punishment was often decimation and disbandment, with a disgraced Legion vanishing from official records. Alternatively, and perhaps most likely, they were simply victims of imperial downsizing, transferred, split up, and gradually ground down in distant wars until no cohesive unit remained to carry the eagle. The ninth didn't vanish into thin air. It likely dissolved into the vast and often opaque bureaucracy of a fading empire. Tracking ancient military units through archaeology employs a range of specialised methods, effectively transforming battlefields, forts, and even mundane campsites into historical documents. One fundamental approach involves the systematic excavation of military sites. Roman forts, for instance, were constructed with standardised layouts, making them recognisable even after centuries of abandonment. Archaeologists look for defensive structures like ditches and ramparts, barracks, command centres, principia, and granaries. The stratigraphy of these sites, the layering of different occupational phases, can reveal periods of construction, occupation, and abandonment, offering a chronological framework for military presence. Furthermore, the analysis of associated civilian settlements that often grew up around military bases can provide insights into supply chains, economic impact, and cultural exchange. The analysis of military equipment and camp remains offers direct evidence of specific units and their activities. Roman legions, for example, often stamped their tiles, bricks, and even some pottery with their legionary number and name. The discovery of such stamped items at a site provides undeniable proof of that legion's presence. Beyond official insignia, archaeologists recover a vast array of personal and military equipment, armour fragments, weapons, swords, spearheads, arrowheads, tools, and daily necessities like cooking pots, lamps, and coins. The style and manufacturing techniques of these artifacts can be dated and attributed to specific periods or regions, helping to pinpoint the timeline of occupation. Furthermore, the layout of temporary marching camps, characterized by their standardized ditch and rampart defenses, can reveal the size and organization of units on the move, even if only occupied for a single night. The study of contemporary historical documents provides an invaluable, albeit often biased and incomplete, narrative framework for archaeological findings. Roman historians like Tacitus, Caesar, and Livy documented military campaigns, legionary movements, and significant battles. These written accounts offer names of legions, their commanders, and the general geographical areas of their operations. However, these documents are often propaganda, written from the perspective of the victors, and frequently omit details of defeats or obscure the exact fate of units. Therefore, archaeological evidence serves as a crucial check and balance against the written record, sometimes confirming it, sometimes contradicting it, and often filling in the significant gaps left by ancient authors. The combination of written history and material culture allows for a more holistic understanding of ancient military movements. Evidence of legion movements through coin finds is another powerful archaeological tool. Roman coins were not just currency, they were also a form of imperial propaganda, often depicting emperors, military victories, and significant events. Legions were paid in coins, and soldiers spent them, lost them, or buried them. The discovery of hoards or individual coins at military sites can provide precise dating for occupation periods. Furthermore, the specific minting locations and types of coins found can sometimes indicate the origin or recent movements of the soldiers, as distinct coinages might be more prevalent in certain regions or during particular campaigns. The analysis of coin wear patterns can also suggest the length of time a coin was in circulation before being lost, offering further chronological clues. The discussion of military logistics in the Roman Empire highlights the extraordinary organisational capabilities required to sustain large armies across vast territories. Maintaining a legion of 5,000 men, plus auxiliary units, required an immense logistical effort. This included providing food, water, fodder for animals, weapons, armour, clothing, and medical supplies. Roads were built for rapid movement of troops and supplies, and a complex system of supply depots, ports, and administrative centres was established. The archaeological remains of granaries, bakeries, workshops, and even latrines within Roman forts all contribute to our understanding of this intricate logistical network. The sheer scale of Roman military engineering, from bridge building to siege works, further underscores their advanced capabilities. Understanding these logistical challenges helps to contextualize the movements and activities of legions, revealing the sophisticated infrastructure that underpinned Roman military dominance, and how even a deviation from this system, such as a lost supply line, could have catastrophic consequences for a unit. Evidence of complex chemical processes in Neolithic sites challenges the notion of a technologically primitive prehistoric era, revealing an unexpected mastery of materials. One striking example is the sophisticated production of lime plaster, as seen at sites like Ain Ghazal in Jordan. This is not a simple material. Its creation requires a precise thermochemical process. First, limestone must be quarried and then heated to temperatures exceeding 800 degrees Celsius in specialized kilns to produce quicklime. This quicklime is highly reactive and then slaked with water to create calcium hydroxide, which, when mixed with aggregates like sand and water, forms a workable plaster. As this plaster dries, it slowly absorbs carbon dioxide from the air, chemically hardening into a durable stone-like material. The consistent quality and large-scale use of lime plaster for construction and statuary at Ain Ghazal demonstrate not only an understanding of these chemical transformations, but also the engineering capability to build and operate efficient kilns, indicating a deliberate and controlled chemical manufacturing process. The analysis of early pottery glazes and pigments further highlights prehistoric chemical ingenuity. While early pottery was often unglazed, the development of glazes marked a significant technological leap. Glazes are essentially glass coatings applied to ceramic surfaces, requiring specific mineral compositions and controlled firing temperatures to achieve vitrification. Early glazes, often alkaline in nature, involved mixing silica with fluxes like plant ash containing sodium and potassium, and then firing them at high temperatures. The creation of pigments also involved chemical processes. For example, the vibrant red ochre used in cave paintings and for decorating artifacts is an iron oxide, often processed by grinding and sometimes heating to achieve different hues. The intense black manganese oxide used in some prehistoric art similarly required knowledge of mineral properties and processing. These ancient artisans were, in essence, early chemists, experimenting with raw materials to achieve desired aesthetic and functional properties. The study of metalworking and smelting techniques represents another major stride in prehistoric chemical engineering. The earliest forms of metallurgy involved cold hammering native copper, but true technological advancement came with the discovery of smelting. Smelting is the process of extracting metal from its ore through heat and chemical reduction. This required the construction of sophisticated furnaces capable of reaching temperatures high enough to melt copper, around 1085 degrees, and later tin and lead. The practice of alloying, such as combining copper and tin to create bronze, further demonstrates a deep understanding of material properties and chemical interactions. The creation of bronze, a harder and more durable metal than pure copper, required knowledge of precise ratios and controlled heating. Early metallurgists were essentially performing complex chemical reactions in their furnaces, manipulating elements to create new materials with superior properties. The discussion of knowledge transfer between ancient cultures is critical for understanding the spread and evolution of these chemical technologies. The development of pottery, metallurgy, and plaster production did not occur in isolation. Instead, these innovations often diffused across regions through trade, migration, and cultural exchange. For instance, the earliest evidence of copper smelting appears in the Near East and then gradually spreads across Europe and Asia. Similarly, the techniques for making lime plaster and sophisticated pottery likely travelled along ancient trade routes, with local variations and adaptations emerging in different regions. This transfer of knowledge suggests a network of communication and interaction that facilitated the dissemination of complex technological processes, indicating that innovation was not confined to a single genius, but was a collective, evolving human endeavour. Archaeological evidence of industrial-scale production further underscores the advanced nature of some prehistoric chemical engineering. While the term industrial might seem anachronistic for prehistoric times, certain sites exhibit evidence of specialised, large-scale manufacturing that goes beyond mere subsistence needs. For example, some Neolithic pottery centres show signs of mass production, with standardised forms and evidence of dedicated kilns. Similarly, early metallurgical sites sometimes feature multiple furnaces and extensive slag heaps, indicating sustained large-scale metal extraction. The sheer volume of lime plaster used at sites like Ain Ghazal, in quantities sufficient to construct entire villages and hundreds of statues, points to an organised, almost industrial-level production process. This scale of production implies a division of labour, specialised skills, and a community capable of coordinating significant resources and labour for technological output, challenging our perceptions of prehistoric economies and societal organisation. The Neolithic revolution, traditionally viewed as a singular transformative shift from hunting and gathering to agriculture, might better be understood as a more gradual and complex process, marked by a new timeline of technological advancement that predates the full adoption of farming. For decades, the invention of agriculture was seen as the primary catalyst for all subsequent human progress: sedentary life, population growth, social stratification, and technological innovation. However, emerging archaeological evidence suggests that many of these revolutionary changes were already underway, or even well established, among certain Mesolithic and early Neolithic communities before widespread farming took hold. Technologies like advanced woodworking, monumental construction, and even early chemical engineering hint that the seeds of civilization were sown long before the plough became ubiquitous. Evidence of sophisticated engineering before agriculture is perhaps one of the most compelling aspects of this reconsidered timeline. The Shigir idol, a monumental wooden sculpture from the Mesolithic, stands as a prime example. Its creation required complex planning, specialized tools, and significant communal effort, all developed by hunter-gatherers. Similarly, the construction of the earliest lime plaster structures and statues at sites like Eingarsel, dating to the pre-pottery Neolithic B period, involved advanced chemical engineering and organized labor for quarrying, kiln building, and material processing, all occurring before the full domestication of crops and animals was widespread. These examples demonstrate that the capacity for large-scale complex engineering projects and the technological know-how to execute them were not solely products of agricultural surpluses, but were rather independently developed by highly organized foraging and early pastoralist societies. The analysis of early urban centers and their technologies further complicates the traditional narrative. Sites like Çatalhöyük in Anatolia, a massive Neolithic settlement dating back to 7500 BC, demonstrate a remarkably complex society with dense populations, sophisticated architecture, and advanced craft production, all without a clear centralized authority or evidence of large-scale warfare. While Çatalhöyük was undoubtedly an agricultural community, its social organization and technological prowess, including intricate wall paintings and obsidian tool production, suggest a level of urbanism that challenges the idea of a simple progression from village to city. Even earlier, the structures at Göbekli Tepe, a purely ritualistic complex from the pre-pottery Neolithic, reveal astonishing engineering and artistic skill in carving and erecting massive stone pillars, executed by hunter-gatherers, effectively pushing back the timeline for monumental architecture by thousands of years. The discussion of knowledge preservation and transfer is crucial for understanding how these early technological advancements were sustained and disseminated. The continuity of specific artistic motifs on the Shigir idol across vast regions of Mesolithic Eurasia, for instance, suggests a network of shared symbolic knowledge. Similarly, the spread of pottery techniques, metallurgical skills, and architectural styles across the ancient Near East and Europe indicates robust mechanisms for the transmission of complex information. This knowledge transfer likely occurred through trade, migration, intermarriage, and perhaps even specialized craftspeople moving between communities. The ability of these early societies to preserve and transmit technical and cultural knowledge over generations, often without writing, speaks to sophisticated social structures and educational practices that ensured the continuity of their innovations. The impact of this reconsidered Neolithic revolution on our understanding of human development is profound. It suggests that human ingenuity and organizational capacity were present much earlier and were not solely dependent on the agricultural revolution. Instead, agriculture may have been one of several pathways to complexity, rather than the sole driver. This new perspective highlights the diversity of human adaptive strategies and the sophistication of pre-agricultural societies. It challenges the linear model of progress, suggesting instead a more dynamic and nuanced trajectory of human development, where innovation could emerge in various contexts and through different means. Ultimately, it paints a picture of early humans as highly capable, adaptable, and culturally rich, constantly experimenting and evolving their technologies and social structures long before the traditional dawn of civilization. The discovery and excavation of Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey have fundamentally reshaped our understanding of early human civilization. Discovered by Klaus Schmidt in 1994, this monumental complex of circular and oval structures featuring massive carved stone pillars, dates back to the pre-pottery Neolithic A period, roughly 9600–8200 BC. What makes Göbekli Tepe so extraordinary is that it was built by hunter-gatherers thousands of years before the accepted timeline for the development of agriculture, sedentary life, and monumental architecture. The site consists of multiple enclosures, each with several enormous T-shaped limestone pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons and standing over 5.5 meters tall. These pillars are intricately carved with depictions of animals, foxes, snakes, boars, birds, and insects, as well as abstract symbols and anthropomorphic features, including arms and hands. The site was not a settlement, but appears to have been a purely ritualistic or ceremonial centre, deliberately buried and new structures built on top over millennia. The analysis of Göbekli Tepe's construction techniques and dating has been a cornerstone of its revolutionary impact. The sheer scale of the pillars and the precision of their carvings indicate an advanced level of engineering and artistic skill. Quarrying these massive limestone blocks, transporting them, and then erecting them required a coordinated effort involving hundreds of individuals, implying a complex social organisation that was previously thought to be impossible for hunter-gatherer societies. The stone tools found at the site, primarily made of flint, were used for quarrying, shaping, and carving the pillars. The sophisticated relief carvings, some almost three-dimensional, demonstrate a mastery of stoneworking that rivals later, supposedly more advanced civilizations. The dating of Göbekli Tepe relies on radiocarbon dating of organic materials found within the fills of the structures, consistently placing its construction in the 10th and 9th millennia BC, making it significantly older than Stonehenge or the earliest Mesopotamian cities. Evidence of advanced astronomical knowledge at Göbekli Tepe is suggested by the alignment patterns of some of its structures. While not as definitively aligned as later astronomical observatories, some researchers have proposed that certain pillars and enclosures might have been oriented towards significant celestial events, such as solstices, equinoxes, or the rising of specific stars. The animal carvings, particularly those depicting constellations or celestial bodies, further hint at an interest in the night sky. For example, some pillars feature symbols that resemble constellations, and the arrangement of certain animal figures might represent celestial narratives. While these interpretations are still debated, the possibility that these early hunter-gatherers possessed a sophisticated understanding of astronomical phenomena adds another layer of complexity to their intellectual capabilities, suggesting that the drive to understand the cosmos was an ancient human endeavour. The discussion of social organisation required for Göbekli Tepe's construction is central to its challenge to establish theories of civilization. The conventional view holds that large-scale public works, requiring massive labour forces, only became feasible after the development of agriculture, which provided food surpluses to support non-food producing specialists in a stratified society. Göbekli Tepe, built by nomadic or semi-nomadic hunter-gatherers, directly contradicts this. Its construction implies a highly organised society capable of mobilising and sustaining a large workforce for extended periods, coordinating complex tasks and sharing a common ideological framework. This suggests that shared religious beliefs, ritual practices, or social cohesion could have been powerful enough motivators to unite disparate groups and undertake monumental projects, even in the absence of hierarchical political structures or agricultural surpluses. It highlights the potential for ideological factors to drive social complexity before economic ones. The impact of Göbekli Tepe on theories of civilization development is nothing short of revolutionary. It completely overturns the long-held assumption that agriculture necessarily preceded monumental architecture, complex social organisation, and organised religion. Instead, Göbekli Tepe suggests that the desire for communal ritual spaces and shared spiritual beliefs might have been a primary driver for people to gather, cooperate, and eventually settle down. It proposes a bottom-up model of civilization, where religious and social cohesion could have led to large-scale construction, which in turn might have spurred the need for more reliable food sources, eventually leading to the adoption of agriculture. This reverses the traditional cause and effect relationship, placing ritual and social complexity at the forefront of human development, rather than as a consequence of agricultural surplus. Göbekli Tepe forces us to rewrite the narrative of how and why humans transitioned from small bands of foragers to complex settled societies. Evidence of astronomical observations in ancient sites is pervasive across cultures and continents, demonstrating a deep human fascination with the cosmos from very early periods. Long before the invention of telescopes or written astronomical texts, ancient peoples meticulously tracked celestial movements. This knowledge was often integrated into their daily lives, guiding agricultural practices, navigation, and religious ceremonies. For instance, the cyclical appearances of stars or the sun's position at solstices and equinoxes were critical indicators for seasonal changes, directly impacting planting and harvesting. The very structures of many ancient monuments, from the megalithic circles of Europe to the pyramids of Mesoamerica, often encode this observational knowledge. The analysis of alignment patterns in ancient structures provides compelling evidence of sophisticated astronomical understanding. Stonehenge in England is famously aligned with the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunset, indicating a precise understanding of the sun's annual path. Similarly, Newgrange in Ireland, an ancient passage tomb is illuminated by the rising sun only on the winter solstice, with a narrow beam of light penetrating deep into its inner chamber. In Mesoamerica, many Mayan and Aztec pyramids and ceremonial centers are meticulously aligned with celestial events, such as the equinoxes, when the sun creates serpent-like shadows on their staircases. The structures at Göbekli Tepe, while not as definitively aligned, show intriguing patterns that some researchers believe correspond to the rising of specific constellations or other celestial phenomena, suggesting an early interest in celestial mapping among hunter-gatherers. These precise alignments are not accidental. They required sustained observation, accurate record-keeping, and advanced planning. The discussion of knowledge transfer between cultures highlights how astronomical understandings spread and evolved across the ancient world. While many cultures developed their own unique astronomical traditions, there is also clear evidence of diffusion and exchange. The concept of the zodiac, for example, originated in Mesopotamia and spread across the Mediterranean and into India. Similarly, the development of sophisticated calendar systems, such as the Mayan long count calendar, often drew on observations shared across different Mesoamerican societies. Trade routes and cultural interactions facilitated the exchange of astronomical ideas, tools, and methodologies, leading to a cumulative body of knowledge. This interconnectedness suggests that ancient astronomical knowledge was not isolated, but part of a global intellectual heritage, with different civilizations building upon and refining each other's observations. The study of ancient astronomical texts and artifacts offers direct insights into how this knowledge was recorded and used. In Mesopotamia, cuneiform tablets contain detailed astronomical observations, including records of planetary movements, eclipses, and star catalogues, some dating back thousands of years. These texts demonstrate an advanced mathematical understanding applied to predicting celestial events. Ancient Egyptian temples and tombs feature astronomical ceilings adorned with constellations and planetary diagrams. In China, meticulous records of comets, supernovae, and sunspots were kept for millennia. Artifacts like the Nebra sky disk from Bronze Age Europe, depicting the sun, moon, and stars, serve as early examples of astronomical instruments or maps. These texts and artifacts reveal not only the observations themselves, but also the cosmological beliefs and ritualistic significance that underpinned ancient astronomical practices. The impact on understanding of ancient scientific capabilities is profound. The sophisticated astronomical knowledge of ancient cultures demonstrates that our ancestors were keen observers, adept mathematicians, and capable engineers. Their ability to predict celestial events, construct precisely aligned monuments, and develop complex calendar systems speaks to a rigorous empirical approach and a deep intellectual curiosity. This scientific prowess was often intertwined with religious and spiritual beliefs, blurring the lines between science and cosmology. It challenges the notion that scientific thought is a purely modern phenomenon, showing that the foundations of empirical observation and systematic recording were laid thousands of years ago. Ancient astronomy was not just about stargazing. It was a fundamental science that shaped their worldviews, guided their societies, and laid the groundwork for later scientific revolutions. The Andes Mountains, a colossal spine along the western edge of South America, are home to numerous archaeological sites that present perplexing geological anomalies and engineering marvels. Within the ancient Inca and pre-Inca ruins, particularly at sites like Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo and Pumapunku, one encounters massive stone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, that are cut with astonishing precision and fitted together with uncanny accuracy, often without mortar. The sheer scale and intricate craftsmanship of these megalithic structures challenge conventional explanations, leading to persistent questions about the tools, techniques, and knowledge systems employed by their builders. The geological composition of these stones, often granite, andesite, or diorite, materials known for their extreme hardness, further deepens the mystery of how they were shaped. The analysis of stone cutting and fitting techniques at these sites reveals a level of sophistication that continues to baffle modern engineers and stonemasons. The stones are not merely stacked, they are often intricately carved with multiple angles, convex and concave surfaces, and interlocking joints that fit together so perfectly that a knife blade cannot be inserted between them. This polygonal masonry, or ashlar masonry, is particularly evident at Sacsayhuaman, where enormous blocks form complex earthquake-resistant walls. At Pumapunku near Tiwanaku, the precision reaches another level. Here, blocks of andesite and diorite are carved with perfectly flat surfaces, sharp internal and external angles, and intricate H-shaped clamps, suggesting a degree of standardization and modularity. The uniformity of these cuts, some appearing as if made by machine, defies simple explanations involving only primitive stone tools. Evidence of advanced engineering knowledge is embedded within the very fabric of these Andean structures. Beyond the precision cutting, the builders demonstrated an understanding of seismic engineering. The interlocking, irregular shapes of the stones, often beveled at the edges, allowed the walls to flex during earthquakes, dissipating energy rather than fracturing. This knowledge of earthquake-resistant construction is remarkable, especially considering the highly active seismic zone of the Andes. Furthermore, the selection and transportation of these massive stones, sometimes from quarries many kilometers away and across difficult terrain, required immense logistical planning and engineering prowess. The sheer effort involved in moving and manipulating blocks weighing hundreds of tons points to a highly organized society with advanced knowledge of leverage, ramps, and possibly specialized lifting mechanisms, the details of which remain largely unknown. The discussion of tools and methods used by the ancient Andean builders is a subject of intense debate and speculation. Traditional archaeological explanations suggest the use of harder stones, such as diorite or hematite, as hammerstones for shaping and grinding the softer, albeit still very hard, granite and andesite. Abrasive sands, water, and sustained manual labour are thought to have been used for polishing and achieving the incredibly tight fits. However, the degree of precision and complexity, particularly the perfectly flat surfaces and sharp internal angles at Pumapunku, leads some to question whether these simple tools alone could achieve such results. Some theories propose the use of unknown hardening agents for copper tools, or even more speculative ideas involving lost technologies that could soften stone or employ resonant frequencies for cutting. While these latter theories lack direct evidence, the mystery of the tools remains a significant challenge to conventional understanding, as replicating such work with known ancient technologies is exceedingly difficult, if not impossible, today. Theories about lost technologies often emerge from these Andean mysteries, suggesting that ancient civilizations possessed knowledge and capabilities that have since been forgotten or misinterpreted. The precision of the stone cutting, the apparent modularity of some blocks at Pumapunku, and the sheer scale of the construction without obvious signs of massive labour forces have led some to propose that the Andean builders either possessed tools or techniques that are no longer understood. These lost technologies might involve methods for shaping stone that are entirely different from direct percussion and abrasion, perhaps utilising chemical processes, sonic vibrations, or even unknown forms of power. While these theories often venture into speculative territory, they highlight the profound gap between what we observe in the archaeological record and what we can currently explain using conventional models of ancient technology. The Andes Mountain mystery continues to compel us to consider whether our understanding of ancient engineering is truly complete. The analysis of precision stone-cutting methods in ancient Andean sites, particularly among the Inca and pre-Inca cultures, reveals an extraordinary mastery of materials that continues to defy easy explanation. At locations like Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo and Pumapunku, massive blocks of hard stone including granite, andesite and diorite, are cut with astonishing accuracy. The joints between these stones are often so tight that a razor blade cannot be inserted, a feat achieved without the use of mortar. Many blocks feature complex, multifaceted surfaces, convex and concave curves, and intricate interlocking shapes that are perfectly matched. This level of precision, often involving internal and external angles that are perfectly sharp and flat surfaces that are perfectly planar, suggests a highly sophisticated understanding of geometry and a command of tools that, by conventional archaeological standards, should not have been available. The study of tool marks and construction techniques provides crucial, albeit often ambiguous, clues to how these marvels were achieved. While no metal tools capable of cutting such hard stone have been found in the pre-Columbian Andes, archaeological evidence points to the use of harder stones, such as hematite or diorite, as hammerstones for shaping. These would have been used for percussion, slowly breaking away material. Abrasive sands, often used with water, would have been employed for grinding and polishing surfaces to achieve their remarkable smoothness and fit. However, the absence of widespread evidence for the immense labour force and the sheer volume of abrasive material required for such extensive work using these methods remains a puzzle. Furthermore, the uniform, almost machine-like cuts observed at sites like Pumapunku are particularly difficult to explain through manual hammering and grinding alone. Some researchers have suggested that the builders may have used a technique involving repeated heating and rapid cooling of the stone to induce fracturing, or perhaps even specialised knowledge of natural fracture planes within the rock. A comparison with modern engineering capabilities often highlights the impressive nature of these ancient achievements. Even with today's advanced diamond-tipped saws, laser cutters, and heavy machinery, replicating the precision and complexity of some of the Andean stonework, particularly the interlocking polygonal masonry on such a massive scale, would be an extremely challenging and expensive undertaking. The sheer logistical effort of quarrying, transporting, and precisely placing blocks weighing hundreds of tons, sometimes over long distances and up steep inclines, without the aid of wheeled vehicles or advanced lifting equipment, is staggering. Modern engineers marvel at the earthquake-resistant design of Inca walls, which have withstood countless seismic events over centuries, demonstrating an intuitive understanding of structural dynamics that predates modern scientific principles. Evidence of knowledge transfer between cultures is also a significant area of study. While the Andean civilizations developed unique stoneworking traditions, there may have been some degree of diffusion of basic techniques or concepts across different regions of South America. However, the highest levels of precision and monumental scale are largely concentrated within the Inca and pre-Inca cultures of the Central Andes. The development of these advanced techniques appears to have been an indigenous innovation, evolving over millennia, rather than a direct import from distant cultures. The consistent application of these methods across multiple sites and over long periods suggests a formalized system of knowledge transmission, likely through specialized guilds of stonemasons who pass down their skills and secrets from generation to generation. The discussion of lost technological capabilities invariably arises when confronting the Andean stone mysteries. The difficulty in explaining how such precise work was achieved with known ancient tools leads some to speculate about lost technologies. These theories range from the plausible, such as more sophisticated methods of using simple tools, or specialized knowledge of stone properties that allowed for easier manipulation, to the more speculative, including the use of chemical solvents to soften stone, or even advanced sonic or vibratory cutting techniques. While direct archaeological evidence for such advanced methods is currently lacking, the persistent inability of modern science to fully explain the Andean stoneworking with conventional models keeps the idea of lost technologies alive. It challenges us to consider that ancient societies may have possessed highly effective, yet now forgotten, ways of interacting with and shaping their environment. Radiocarbon dating, often referred to as carbon-14 dating, stands as one of the most revolutionary techniques in archaeology, providing a reliable chronological framework for organic materials. The principle is elegantly simple. All living organisms absorb carbon from the atmosphere, including a small, unstable isotope called carbon-14. When an organism dies, it ceases to absorb new carbon, and the carbon-14 within its tissues begins to decay at a predictable rate, with a half-life of approximately 5,130 years. By measuring the ratio of remaining carbon-14 to stable carbon-12 in a sample, scientists can calculate the time elapsed since the organism's death, providing an age for the archaeological context. This method is effective for dating organic materials such as wood, bone, charcoal, seeds, and textiles, typically up to around 50,000 to 60,000 years old. Thermoluminescence dating, or TL dating, offers a complementary method for dating inorganic materials, particularly pottery, burnt flint, and sediments that have been exposed to heat. The technique relies on the fact that certain minerals like quartz and feldspar accumulate energy from environmental radiation over time. When these minerals are heated to a high temperature, as happens when pottery is fired in a kiln or flint is struck to create a spark, this stored energy is released as light. After cooling, the minerals begin to accumulate energy again. By reheating a sample in a laboratory and measuring the light emitted, thermoluminescence, scientists can calculate the time since the material was last heated. This makes TL dating invaluable for establishing the age of ceramic artifacts and understanding the last time a stone tool was used in a fire, extending our dating capabilities beyond organic remains. Isotope testing methods extend beyond carbon-14 to include a variety of techniques that analyze the ratios of different isotopes within materials to gain insights into their age, origin, and even diet. For instance, stable isotope analysis of oxygen and hydrogen in ancient water samples, or bone collagen, can reveal past climates and hydrological cycles. Strontium isotope analysis in human and animal remains can indicate geographical origin, as strontium ratios in teeth and bones reflect the local geology where an individual lived. Lead isotope analysis is used in metallurgy to trace the source of metal ores in ancient artifacts. These methods provide not only chronological data but also crucial information about human mobility, trade networks, and environmental conditions, enriching our understanding of ancient societies. The examination of dating accuracy and limitations is crucial for interpreting archaeological results. While these scientific dating methods are powerful, they are not without their constraints and potential sources of error. Radiocarbon dating, for example, requires calibration due to fluctuations in atmospheric carbon-14 levels over time, which can be affected by solar activity and geomagnetic field changes. The old wood problem can also arise if a sample is taken from the inner rings of a long-lived tree, yielding an age older than the actual event being dated. Thermoluminescence dating can be affected by uneven radiation exposure in the burial environment. All methods have statistical error margins, meaning dates are presented as a range of probabilities rather than single exact years. Furthermore, contamination of samples in the field or laboratory can significantly skew results. Controversies over conflicting dating results are a recurring feature in archaeology, often arising when new dates challenge established timelines. The initial skepticism surrounding the Shigir idol's radiocarbon dates is a prime example, as its extreme antiquity directly contradicted prevailing theories about Mesolithic human capabilities. Such conflicts can lead to intense academic debate, prompting reanalysis of samples, refinement of dating techniques, and sometimes a fundamental re-evaluation of historical narratives. These controversies, while challenging, are an essential part of the scientific process, driving innovation in dating methodologies and forcing archaeologists to rigorously scrutinize their assumptions. They highlight that dating is not a static process, but an ongoing scientific endeavor, constantly striving for greater precision and a more accurate understanding of the deep past. Modern chemical analysis techniques have revolutionized archaeology, transforming the study of artifacts and sites from purely descriptive endeavors into precise scientific investigations. These techniques allow archaeologists to delve into the molecular composition of ancient materials, providing insights into their origins, manufacturing processes, and preservation histories. Spectroscopy, chromatography, and mass spectrometry are just a few of the powerful tools now employed. For example, X-ray fluorescence, XRF, can non-destructively determine the elemental composition of an artifact, identifying the specific metals in a bronze object or the pigments in a painting without damaging the original. Gas chromatography mass spectrometry, GCMS, can identify organic residues in ancient pottery, revealing the types of food or beverages once contained within. The study of ancient materials and compositions provides a window into prehistoric technologies and resource exploitation. By analysing the elemental and molecular makeup of pottery, metals, glass, and even stone tools, archaeologists can trace the sources of raw materials. For instance, obsidian sourcing using trace element analysis can pinpoint the specific volcanic outcrop from which a tool was made, revealing ancient trade networks. The composition of ancient glazes and pigments, as seen in Neolithic pottery or Egyptian faience, reveals the specific mineral ingredients and firing temperatures used, offering direct evidence of early chemical engineering. Understanding these compositions allows us to reconstruct the technological capabilities and material knowledge of past societies. Analysis of preservation methods in archaeology delves into the chemical and biological processes that allow some materials to survive for millennia, while others decay rapidly. Peat bogs, with their acidic and anaerobic conditions, are natural preservation chambers, as demonstrated by the Shigir idol and numerous bog bodies. Similarly, arid desert environments can desiccate organic materials, preserving them as mummies or dry wood. Underwater sites, particularly those in low oxygen conditions, can similarly preserve organic artifacts. Archaeological chemistry investigates the specific chemical interactions between artifacts and their burial environment, helping to understand why certain materials endure and how best to conserve them once excavated. This includes studying the effects of soil chemistry, microbial activity, and water conditions on the degradation or preservation of different materials. The discussion of manufacturing processes, informed by archaeological chemistry, allows for the reconstruction of ancient crafts and industries. For example, analysing the microstructure of ancient metals through metallography can reveal whether an object was cast, hammered, or heat-treated, providing details about the smith's techniques. The chemical composition of slag heaps at ancient smelting sites offers clues about the efficiency of furnaces and the types of ores processed, shedding light on the development of metallurgy. Similarly, the chemical composition of different layers in ancient plaster or mortar can reveal the ingredients and mixing ratios used, allowing us to understand early construction methods. These chemical fingerprints enable archaeologists to reverse engineer ancient technologies, transforming raw materials into sophisticated products. Evidence of advanced chemical knowledge in ancient societies is increasingly apparent through these analyses. The consistent production of lime plaster at Neolithic sites, the precise alloying of metals to create bronze, and the creation of durable glazes and vibrant pigments all point to an empirical understanding of chemical reactions and material properties. These were not random accidents, but deliberate, repeatable processes that required careful control of heat, ingredients, and timing. While ancient artisans may not have articulated their knowledge in modern chemical terms, their practical application of chemical principles demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of how to transform raw materials into useful and aesthetically pleasing objects. Archaeological chemistry continues to uncover this hidden history of ancient innovation, revealing our ancestors as astute observers and masterful manipulators of the natural world. Evidence of sophisticated ancient technologies, often discovered in contexts that defy conventional historical timelines, points to a rich tapestry of human ingenuity that extends far into the past. The Shigir idol, a monumental wooden sculpture from the Mesolithic, showcases advanced woodworking and artistic expression thousands of years before settled agricultural societies were thought capable of such feats. Similarly, the precise stone cutting and massive construction at Andean sites like Pumapunku and Sacsayhuaman reveal engineering skills that are difficult to replicate even with modern tools. The advanced chemical engineering involved in producing lime plaster for structures and statues at Neolithic Ain Ghazal, or the intricate metallurgy of early bronze production, further demonstrate a level of technological mastery that challenges our assumptions about the primitive nature of prehistoric cultures. These examples suggest that complex technological knowledge was not a singular, linear progression, but emerged in various forms across different cultures and periods. The analysis of lost manufacturing processes is a core aspect of understanding these ancient technological marvels. Many ancient crafts involve techniques that are either poorly understood or entirely lost to modern knowledge. For instance, the exact methods used to achieve the incredible precision in Andean stone fitting, or the specific tools that could cut such hard materials, remain subjects of intense debate. Similarly, the creation of certain ancient pigments, dyes, or alloys, like Roman concrete's remarkable durability in seawater, involved recipes and processes that modern science is still trying to fully decipher. The lost wax casting method, known from various ancient cultures, itself is a complex multi-step process that required significant skill. Reconstructing these lost processes often involves experimental archaeology, attempting to recreate ancient artifacts using only period-appropriate tools and materials, which frequently reveals the immense challenges and ingenuity of ancient artisans. The study of knowledge transmission between cultures highlights how these technologies spread and evolved. Innovation rarely occurs in isolation. Rather, ideas and techniques often diffuse across regions through trade, migration, and cultural exchange. The spread of metallurgy from the Near East across Europe, or the dissemination of pottery styles and decorative motifs, illustrates how technological knowledge could travel vast distances. However, the loss of certain technologies also occurred. Factors like societal collapse, migration, conquest, or simply a shift in cultural priorities could lead to the abandonment and eventual forgetting of complex manufacturing processes. The decline of certain craft traditions during periods of instability suggests that knowledge, particularly specialized knowledge, is fragile and requires continuous transmission and practice to survive. The discussion of technological regression is a critical counterpoint to the idea of linear progress. History is replete with examples of societies losing technological capabilities. After the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, for instance, much of the advanced engineering and construction knowledge, including the secrets of Roman concrete, was lost in Europe for centuries, leading to a period of technological decline. Similarly, some complex craft traditions, like certain types of glazed pottery or intricate metalwork, might disappear if the demand for them diminishes, or if the specialized artisans die out without passing on their skills. The existence of lost technologies reminds us that technological progress is not an inevitable upward climb. It can be cyclical, with periods of innovation followed by periods of regression or stagnation, particularly in the face of societal upheaval. Modern attempts to recreate ancient techniques serve as a valuable tool for understanding and appreciating these lost technologies. Experimental archaeology involves hands-on efforts to replicate ancient tools, structures, and manufacturing processes using only methods and materials available in antiquity. For example, researchers have attempted to build segments of Roman roads, smelt ancient metals in reconstructed furnaces, or carve stone with primitive tools to gain insights into the time, effort, and skill required. These experiments often reveal the profound ingenuity of ancient artisans and engineers, highlighting solutions to manufacturing challenges that were previously overlooked. While not always perfectly reproducing the ancient results, these modern attempts provide invaluable experiential knowledge, bridging the gap between archaeological findings and the practical realities of ancient craftsmanship, and occasionally leading to breakthroughs in understanding genuinely lost techniques. Evidence of ancient trade networks crisscrossing continents and oceans fundamentally challenges the notion of isolated ancient civilizations. The Silk Road is perhaps the most famous example, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies between China, India, Persia, and the Roman Empire for millennia. However, countless other, less celebrated networks existed. Maritime routes connected the Mediterranean with distant lands. African trade routes linked Saharan and sub-Saharan societies, and extensive riverine and overland paths moved goods across the Americas. These networks were not just conduits for luxury items, they also carried essential raw materials, foodstuffs, and cultural influences, demonstrating a far more interconnected ancient world than often portrayed in traditional histories. The analysis of technological similarities between cultures provides compelling evidence of knowledge transfer. The independent invention of certain technologies, like the bow and arrow, might occur in multiple places. However, when complex technological packages, such as the specific methods of bronze production, the principles of monumental arch construction, or the sophisticated techniques for producing glazed pottery, appear across geographically distant cultures with similar characteristics, it strongly suggests a process of diffusion rather than independent invention. For instance, the spread of agricultural practices from the Fertile Crescent across Europe and beyond, or the transmission of writing systems, often shows a clear trajectory of innovation and subsequent adoption or adaptation by neighbouring societies. These similarities imply a dynamic exchange of practical knowledge and technical expertise. The study of artifact distribution patterns is a key archaeological method for tracing ancient trade and contact. When exotic materials such as obsidian from a specific volcanic source, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, or amber from the Baltic are found thousands of miles from their origin, they serve as undeniable markers of ancient trade routes. Similarly, the presence of distinctive pottery styles, metalwork, or even specific architectural elements in regions far from their cultural hearth can indicate patterns of migration, conquest, or sustained economic and cultural exchange. The mapping of these artifact distributions allows archaeologists to reconstruct the extent and intensity of ancient interactions, revealing the complex web of connections that link diverse societies. The discussion of maritime and land routes highlights the diverse mechanisms of ancient cultural contact. Maritime routes, utilizing rivers, coastlines, and open oceans, allowed for the movement of bulk goods and facilitated rapid long-distance travel, albeit with inherent risks. The development of sophisticated shipbuilding and navigation techniques, from Egyptian reed boats to Polynesian outrigger canoes, enabled extensive seafaring. Land routes, ranging from well-maintained Roman roads to nomadic desert trails, connected inland regions and facilitated the movement of people, animals, and goods. These routes were often dynamic, shifting with political changes, environmental factors, and technological innovations. Understanding the nature and extent of these ancient routes is crucial for reconstructing the pathways of cultural diffusion and knowledge transfer. The impact on cultural development is profound. Cultural contact and knowledge transfer were primary engines of innovation and societal change in the ancient world. The exchange of technologies, agricultural practices, artistic styles, religious beliefs, and political ideas stimulated development, led to the creation of hybrid cultures, and enriched the human experience. The adoption of new tools or crops could transform subsistence strategies, leading to population growth and increased social complexity. The sharing of astronomical knowledge could refine calendar systems and impact religious practices. Far from being isolated, ancient cultures were in constant dialogue, shaping and reshaping each other through a myriad of direct and indirect interactions, leading to a dynamic and interconnected global history. The analysis of conventional historical timelines, which often present human progress as a linear and neatly categorized journey from primitive to advanced, reveals a strong foundational framework that is nonetheless susceptible to revision. These timelines, built on centuries of archaeological findings, textual evidence, and scientific dating, provide a coherent narrative that has shaped our understanding of human development. However, their very coherence can sometimes lead to a rigidity that resists new, contradictory evidence. The established benchmarks, such as the Neolithic Revolution or the Bronze Age, become powerful organizing principles that, while useful, can inadvertently obscure the nuanced and often messy realities of history. Evidence that contradicts accepted theories acts as a vital catalyst for re-evaluation and progress within historical and archaeological disciplines. The discoveries discussed, such as the Shigir idol's extreme age, Göbekli Tepe's monumental architecture by hunter-gatherers, or the Roman head in Mexico, directly challenge fundamental tenets of these conventional timelines. They suggest that complex capabilities, artistic, engineering, or social, existed far earlier than previously thought, or that intercontinental contact was not as limited as once believed. These anomalies are not merely curiosities, they are cracks in the historical narrative, forcing academics to question long-held assumptions and reconsider the pace and nature of human development. The discussion of academic resistance to new ideas is a familiar pattern in the history of science and scholarship. When groundbreaking discoveries emerge that contradict established paradigms, the initial reaction is often skepticism, denial, or an attempt to fit the new evidence into existing frameworks, sometimes through strained interpretations. This resistance can stem from various factors: the immense investment in existing theories, the professional reputation of scholars who have built careers on those theories, or simply the inherent human tendency to prefer order and consistency over disruptive innovation. The initial dismissal of the Shigir idol's age, for example, illustrates this resistance, where the scientific data was initially questioned because it didn't align with the prevailing view of Mesolithic capabilities. However, persistent evidence and rigorous reanalysis eventually force a re-evaluation, leading to paradigm shifts. The impact of new discoveries on historical understanding is transformative. When anomalies are finally accepted and integrated into the body of historical knowledge, they can lead to profound changes in how we perceive the past. Göbekli Tepe, for instance, has effectively rewritten the origins of civilization, suggesting that ritual and social complexity might have driven the adoption of agriculture, rather than being its consequence. The Shigir idol compels us to recognize a wood age of monumental art that has largely perished, forcing a re-evaluation of Mesolithic capabilities. These discoveries do not just add new facts, they alter the interpretive lens through which we view entire epochs, revealing a more complex, dynamic, and often surprising human past. Future directions for historical research are profoundly shaped by these challenges to previous narratives. Anomalous findings stimulate new research questions, prompting archaeologists to look for similar evidence in previously overlooked contexts, or to apply new scientific dating and analytical techniques to older finds. They encourage interdisciplinary approaches, drawing on geology, chemistry, genetics, and oceanography to piece together a more comprehensive picture. The pursuit of these anomalies also fosters a more critical and open-minded approach to historical inquiry, recognizing that our understanding of the past is always provisional and subject to revision. Ultimately, these challenging discoveries push the boundaries of knowledge, ensuring that the story of humanity remains an ongoing, evolving, and endlessly fascinating investigation. An overview of current archaeological techniques reveals a profound transformation in the field, moving beyond traditional excavation and typology to embrace a diverse array of scientific methodologies. Modern archaeology is an inherently interdisciplinary science, integrating insights from physics, chemistry, biology, computer science, and geology. Techniques such as remote sensing, including LiDAR, light detection and ranging, and ground-penetrating radar, GPR, allow archaeologists to detect buried structures and features without disturbing the ground, providing a non-invasive way to map entire ancient landscapes. Geographic Information Systems, GIS, are used to analyze spatial data, integrating maps, satellite imagery, and excavation data to understand site distribution and environmental contexts. The discussion of new dating methods continues to refine our chronological understanding of the past. Beyond the established radiocarbon and thermoluminescence dating, advancements include optically stimulated luminescence, OSL, for dating sediments, particularly useful for determining when mineral grains were last exposed to sunlight. Electron spin resonance, ESR, is applied to date tooth enamel and burnt flint. Argon-argon dating is used for volcanic materials, extending dating capabilities much further back in time. These methods, with their increasing precision and applicability to a wider range of materials, are continuously pushing back the timelines of human activity and providing more accurate chronologies for key events in prehistory. Analysis of material science applications in archaeology provides unprecedented insights into ancient technologies and resource management. Techniques like X-ray diffraction, XRD, identify the crystalline structures of minerals, revealing the specific types of clay and pottery, or the mineral composition of ancient pigments. Scanning electron microscopy, SM, allows for ultra-high-resolution imaging of artifact surfaces, revealing tool marks, manufacturing processes, and even wear patterns from use. Mass spectrometry, in its various forms, can identify trace elements in metals, glass and stone, providing geochemical fingerprints that link artifacts to their geological sources, thereby tracing ancient trade routes and resource exploitation. These material science approaches transform artifacts from mere objects into detailed records of ancient innovation. The study of DNA and isotope analysis has opened entirely new avenues for understanding ancient populations. Ancient DNA, aDNA, extracted from human and animal remains can reveal genetic relationships, migration patterns, disease histories, and even dietary adaptations of past populations. This has revolutionized our understanding of human evolution, the spread of agriculture, and the genetic makeup of ancient societies. Isotope analysis, particularly of stable isotopes like strontium, oxygen, and nitrogen in human and animal bones and teeth, provides information about diet, mobility, and environmental conditions. For instance, strontium isotopes can indicate where an individual grew up, while nitrogen and carbon isotopes can reveal the types of food consumed, distinguishing between terrestrial and marine diets, or plant-based versus meat-heavy diets. Future developments in archaeological science promise even more profound insights. Advances in non-destructive analysis will allow for detailed study of fragile or unique artifacts without causing damage. Machine learning and artificial intelligence are increasingly being applied to process vast datasets from remote sensing and excavation, identifying patterns and anomalies that human researchers might miss. Miniaturization of analytical equipment will enable on-site analysis, providing immediate feedback during excavations. Furthermore, the integration of environmental DNA, eDNA, from soil samples will allow for the reconstruction of ancient ecosystems and biodiversity, even in the absence of macroscopic remains. These ongoing scientific advancements ensure that archaeology remains a dynamic and ever-evolving field, continuously pushing the boundaries of our knowledge about the human past. The reassessment of human technological capability, spurred by discoveries like the Shigir idol and Göbekli Tepe, fundamentally alters our understanding of early human ingenuity. These finds demonstrate that complex planning, advanced engineering, and sophisticated artistic expression were not exclusive to settled agricultural societies, but were present among hunter-gatherer communities thousands of years earlier than previously thought. This challenges the long-held assumption that technological progress was a linear ascent directly tied to the agricultural revolution. Instead, it suggests a more diverse and dynamic landscape of innovation, where different societies developed complex skills and technologies in response to their unique environments and cultural needs, often long before the widespread adoption of farming. Analysis of cultural development patterns reveals a more nuanced and less linear trajectory for human societies. The traditional model of progress from simple bands to complex states is complicated by evidence of highly organized non-hierarchical societies capable of monumental construction and elaborate ritual, as seen at Göbekli Tepe. This suggests that social complexity could arise from diverse factors, including shared ideology and ritual, rather than solely from economic surplus. Furthermore, the extensive ancient trade networks and the transfer of knowledge across vast distances indicate that cultural development was rarely isolated. Instead, it was a process of constant interaction, adaptation, and hybridization, leading to a rich tapestry of human cultures, each with its unique innovations and influences. The discussion of knowledge preservation and loss highlights the fragility of human achievement and the cyclical nature of technological and cultural progress. The very existence of lost technologies, from advanced stoneworking techniques to complex chemical processes, demonstrates that knowledge can be forgotten, especially during periods of societal upheaval, environmental change, or shifts in cultural priorities. The fact that the Shigir idol survived only by a geological accident underscores how much of our ancestors' material culture, particularly wood, has simply vanished, leaving huge gaps in our understanding. This fragility reminds us that human progress is not an inevitable upward climb, but a delicate balance between innovation, transmission, and the ever-present threat of loss. The impact on understanding of human potential is profound. These discoveries expand our view of what ancient humans were capable of, both intellectually and socially. They reveal ancestors who were not merely struggling for survival, but were deeply engaged with their environment, capable of abstract thought, complex symbolic expression, and sophisticated engineering. The ability of hunter-gatherers to organize large-scale projects or to develop complex chemical processes speaks to an inherent human capacity for innovation and cooperation that transcends specific historical periods or economic systems. This expanded understanding of ancient potential encourages us to look for similar evidence in other contexts and to re-evaluate sites that may have been dismissed as less significant under older paradigms. Future directions for archaeological research are invigorated by these new perspectives. The recognition of a more complex and interconnected human past encourages interdisciplinary collaboration, drawing on fields like genetics, climate science, and advanced material analysis to uncover deeper layers of information. It prompts a re-examination of empty regions on the archaeological map, searching for evidence of ephemeral or biodegradable cultures. Furthermore, it fosters a more critical and reflective approach to our own biases and assumptions about human history, ensuring that future research remains open to surprising discoveries that continue to challenge and enrich our understanding of humanity's long and extraordinary journey. The journey through these historical anomalies has brought us face to face with a past far stranger and more complex than conventional narratives suggest. We have seen the Shigir idol, a monumental wooden sculpture from the Mesolithic, challenging our assumptions about Ice Age capabilities. We explored the lime plaster figures of Ain Ghazal, revealing advanced chemical engineering in the Neolithic. We confronted the enigmatic stone faces of the Andes, hinting at lost engineering prowess. The vanishing 9th Roman legion exposed the limits and propaganda of recorded history. And the tiny Roman head in an Aztec grave whispered of transoceanic connections a millennium before Columbus. These are not isolated curiosities. They are pieces of a larger, more intricate puzzle that collectively demand a fundamental re-evaluation of our understanding of human development. The impact of these findings on historical understanding is nothing short of revolutionary. They force us to acknowledge that human ingenuity, social complexity and technological sophistication were present much earlier and in more diverse forms than previously accepted. The linear progression from primitive to advanced is replaced by a more nuanced and dynamic picture, where innovation could arise in various contexts and even be lost and rediscovered. The boundaries between ages, Stone Age, Bronze Age, become more permeable, and the isolation of continents, particularly before Columbus, appears increasingly questionable. These discoveries compel us to move beyond rigid timelines and embrace a history that is fluid, interconnected, and full of unexpected twists. Future research directions are profoundly shaped by these lingering mysteries. The existence of the Shigir idol, for instance, highlights the immense potential for discoveries in other waterlogged environments, urging archaeologists to explore peat bogs and ancient lake beds across the globe for similar biodegradable treasures. The unexplained precision of Andean stonework calls for innovative approaches to understanding ancient engineering, perhaps through biomimicry or advanced material science. The Roman head in Mexico demands a continued search for subtle evidence of pre-Columbian transatlantic contact, reanalyzing existing collections and re-examining coastal sites. Furthermore, the insights from Göbekli Tepe inspire a re-evaluation of the role of ritual and ideology in driving early social complexity. These anomalies are not dead ends. They are fertile ground for new questions and groundbreaking investigations. Many mysteries, however, still remain. The precise meaning of the Shigir idol's carvings continues to elude us, offering only tantalizing glimpses into Mesolithic cosmology. The exact fate of the entire 9th Roman legion may never be definitively known, remaining a perpetual historical phantom. The full extent of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact, if it occurred, is still largely unwritten, with the Tuxtla head standing as a singular, defiant placeholder. These unresolved questions underscore the vast silence of our past, reminding us how much remains undiscovered and unexplained. This journey is a call to action for continued investigation. The ground beneath our feet is not empty. It is a library of lost things waiting to be read. The Shigir idol waited 12,000 years for a chemist to ask it a question. The 9th Legion may still be waiting for us to find their bones. History is not a finished book. It is merely sleeping, occasionally stirring to reveal a forgotten chapter. These impossible artifacts are not just cracks in the glass of our historical understanding. They are invitations to look closer, to question deeper, and to recognize that the story of humanity is longer, stranger, and far more wondrous than we have ever dared to admit. A perpetual historical phantom, the full extent of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact, if it occurred, is still largely unwritten, with the Tuxtla head standing as a singular, defiant placeholder. These unresolved questions underscore the vast silence of our past, reminding us how much remains undiscovered and unexplained. This journey is a call to action for continued investigation. The ground beneath our feet is not empty. It is a library of lost things waiting to be read. The Shigir idol waited 12,000 years for a chemist to ask it a question. The 9th Legion may still be waiting for us to find their bones. History is not a finished book. It is merely sleeping, occasionally stirring to reveal a forgotten chapter. These impossible artifacts are not just cracks in the glass of our historical understanding. They are invitations to look closer, to question deeper, and to recognize that the story of humanity is longer, stranger, and far more wondrous than we have ever dared to admit. The Tuxtla Statuette, a small polished greenstone figure, provides another compelling example of an object that seems to whisper secrets across the chasm of time. Discovered in 1902 in a field near La Mojara, Veracruz, Mexico, it is a modest artifact, standing only about 6 inches tall. Yet, its significance far outweighs its diminutive size. Carved from a type of serpentine, it depicts a human-like figure, possibly a shaman or a ruler, adorned with a duckbill mask or perhaps an actual duck's head serving as a headdress. The figure's posture is somewhat stiff, its arms held close to its body and its legs slightly bent, giving it a sense of poised anticipation. What truly elevates the Tuxtla statuette from a mere ancient curiosity to a profound historical enigma is the intricate series of glyphs carved onto its surface. These glyphs represent a script known as Epi Olmec or Isthmian script, one of Mesoamerica's earliest writing systems. This script is distinct from the later, more widely understood Mayan script, though it shares some conceptual similarities. The real shock, however, lies in the specific inscription on the statuette, a long count calendar date, a system of dating developed by Mesoamerican civilizations to track vast spans of time. The long count date inscribed on the Tuxtla statuette corresponds to March 16th, 162 CE. This date places the Tuxtla statuette firmly within the late pre-classic or early classic period of Mesoamerican history, a time of profound cultural and societal development. However, the context of its discovery and the nature of the script itself raise numerous questions. The statuette was found without clear archaeological stratification, meaning it wasn't discovered in a controlled excavation that could definitively link it to a specific cultural layer. This lack of precise context has always been a point of contention for scholars, making it harder to definitively assign its origin. Despite this, the stylistic elements of the carving, particularly the duckbill mask, strongly resonate with iconography found in Olmec and early Epi-Olmec art, suggesting a deep connection to these foundational Mesoamerican cultures. The Epi-Olmec script itself is a fascinating puzzle. Unlike the relatively well-deciphered Maya script, Epi-Olmec remains largely unread. Only a handful of texts exist, the most significant being the La Mojara Stela 1, a much larger stone monument discovered in 1986, which also bears extensive Epi-Olmec glyphs and a long count date. The Tuxtla statuette and La Mojara Stela 1 are thus critical Rosetta Stones for understanding this ancient writing system. The fact that the Tuxtla statuette, a relatively small portable object, carries such a precise and early date suggests a sophisticated understanding of calendrics and a developed writing tradition at a period when many historical narratives depict Mesoamerican societies as still being in their nascent stages of complex organization. The implication of the Tuxtla statuette, particularly when viewed alongside the La Mojara Stela, is that a highly advanced civilization with a fully functional writing system and a sophisticated calendrical system existed in Mesoamerica far earlier than many traditional timelines suggest for such complex cultural achievements. While the Olmec are recognized as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, their writing system, if indeed they had one, is still debated, with many scholars believing it was more proto-writing than a fully developed script. The Epi-Olmec script, exemplified by the Tuxtla statuette, appears to be a direct descendant or a parallel development, demonstrating a level of intellectual sophistication that pushes the boundaries of conventional understanding. The existence of such a precise calendrical inscription on a portable object suggests a society that valued record-keeping and the tracking of time, not just for astronomical observations, but perhaps for historical narratives or political decrees. Who was this duck-billed figure, and what message was the statuette meant to convey across the centuries? Was it a depiction of a specific ruler, a deity, or a shamanic figure embodying a particular spirit? The ambiguity surrounding its purpose only deepens its enigmatic allure. Furthermore, the material itself, greenstone, was often associated with preciousness and ritual significance in Mesoamerican cultures. The effort involved in carving such intricate details onto a hard stone, especially given the tools available at the time, speaks to the skill of the artisans and the importance of the object itself. It was not a casual carving, but a deliberate creation, imbued with meaning and intended to endure. The smooth, polished surface of the statuette, despite its age, still retains a subtle luster, hinting at the care with which it was crafted and perhaps handled in ancient rituals. The Tuxtla statuette challenges the notion of a linear progressive development of Mesoamerican civilizations. It suggests bursts of innovation and periods of advanced knowledge that might have subsequently been lost or superseded by other traditions. The fact that the Epi-Olmec script was not widely adopted or did not evolve into a dominant writing system across Mesoamerica is another layer of mystery. Why did this sophisticated system seemingly fade only to be rediscovered millennia later? Was it a regional development, perhaps tied to a specific powerful polity that eventually declined? Or was it a more widespread phenomenon whose evidence has simply not yet been unearthed? The questions posed by the Tuxtla statuette resonate with those raised by other out-of-place artifacts. It forces us to confront the possibility that our understanding of ancient history is incomplete, fragmented by the accidents of preservation and discovery. The ground beneath our feet is not empty. It is a library of lost things waiting to be read. The Shigir idol waited 12,000 years for a chemist to ask it a question. The Ninth Legion may still be waiting for us to find their bones. History is not a finished book. It is merely sleeping, occasionally stirring to reveal a forgotten chapter. These impossible artifacts are not just cracks in the glass of our historical understanding. They're invitations to look closer, to question deeper, and to recognize that the story of humanity is longer, stranger, and far more wondrous than we have ever dared to admit. The statuette's journey from its creation to its modern rediscovery is itself a testament to the passage of time and the vagaries of human memory. For centuries it lay buried, silent witness to the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Its eventual emergence into the light of day was a chance happening, a farmer tilling his field, perhaps unaware of the profound historical weight of the object he'd unearthed. This accidental discovery highlights a recurring theme in archaeology. Many of our most significant finds are not the result of systematic excavation, but rather serendipitous encounters. This raises the unsettling question of how many other equally significant artifacts remain hidden, waiting for their moment in the sun, or perhaps lost forever to the ravages of time and human development. The very act of deciphering the long count date on the Tuxtla statuette required a deep understanding of Mesoamerican calendrical systems, a knowledge that was meticulously pieced together by generations of epigraphers and archaeologists. This process of intellectual reconstruction, of reassembling the fragments of ancient thought, is a heroic endeavour in itself. It demonstrates humanity's persistent drive to understand its past, to connect with the minds of those who came before us, even when separated by millennia and vast cultural divides. The statuette, in a sense, became a time capsule, its message preserved within its hard stone, waiting for the right intellectual keys to unlock its secrets. The debate surrounding the Tuxtla statuette and the Epi-Olmec script also touches upon the broader academic struggle between established paradigms and new evidence. When an artifact challenges existing chronological frameworks or cultural narratives, it often faces initial skepticism and resistance. This is a natural part of the scientific process, as new interpretations must be rigorously tested and validated. However, it also underscores the conservative nature of historical scholarship, where entrenched ideas can be difficult to dislodge, even in the face of compelling, albeit scarce, evidence. The Tuxtla statuette, with its solitary voice, has slowly but surely earned its place as a crucial piece of the Mesoamerican puzzle, forcing scholars to reconsider the pace and nature of ancient cultural development. Its small size also invites speculation about its portability and potential use. Was it carried by a traveller, a diplomat, or a priest? Did it serve as a personal amulet, a symbol of authority, or a ritual object used in ceremonies? The fact that it was found relatively far from major Olmec or Epi-Olmec centres suggests that it might have travelled, either through trade, conquest, or migration. This possibility opens up fascinating avenues for understanding ancient networks of interaction and the movement of ideas and objects across Mesoamerica. It suggests a more interconnected ancient world than sometimes depicted, where valuable and meaningful artifacts could traverse significant distances, carrying their messages and their power with them. The Tuxtla statuette, therefore, is not merely a stone carving. It is a repository of questions, a catalyst for re-evaluation, and a tangible link to a past that is still very much alive in its mysteries. It reminds us that history is not a static collection of facts, but a dynamic, ever-evolving narrative, constantly being rewritten with each new discovery. The whispers of the past, carried on the wind, sometimes coalesce into clear voices, demanding our attention and inviting us to listen more closely to the untold stories etched in stone, buried in the earth, and hidden in plain sight. The implications of its existence are profound, suggesting an intellectual sophistication in ancient Mesoamerica that continues to surprise and challenge our preconceived notions. It is a testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity and the persistent, often elusive nature of truth in the archaeological record. The year is 1513. The Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis compiles a world map, a remarkable document that would confound historians and cartographers for centuries to come. This map, drawn on gazelle skin, is not a complete world map as we understand it today, but rather a fragment, depicting the western coast of Africa, the eastern coast of South America, and most controversially, the northern coast of Antarctica, seemingly free of ice. The Piri Reis map, discovered in 1929 in the library of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, presents an array of anomalies that defy the conventional historical timeline of exploration and cartography. The most striking feature of the map is its depiction of Antarctica. Official historical records state that Antarctica was not definitively sighted until 1820 by Russian explorer Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen, and its coastline was certainly not accurately mapped until the mid-20th century, with the advent of seismic sounding and satellite imagery. Yet here, on a map from the early 16th century, is a landmass that strongly resembles the Queen Maud Land region of Antarctica, complete with what appear to be bays, rivers, and mountain ranges, all beneath an ice sheet that is now miles thick. This depiction suggests a knowledge of the continent when it was not covered by ice, an era that ended at least 6,000 years ago, and possibly as far back as 12,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age. Piri Reis himself stated in his extensive notes on the map that he did not personally survey these lands. Instead, he compiled his map from approximately 20 older charts and Mappae Mundi, some of which dated back to the time of Alexander the Great. He explicitly mentions using a map drawn by Columbus, as well as ancient Egyptian and Indian charts. This admission is crucial, as it shifts the mystery from Piri Reis himself to the unknown, ancient sources he consulted. If his depiction of an ice-free Antarctica is accurate, it implies that some unknown civilization possessed advanced cartographic techniques and explored the southernmost continent thousands of years before any known historical culture. The implications of an ice-free Antarctica on a 16th century map are profound. It challenges the entire timeline of human exploration and technological development. How could ancient mariners have navigated to and accurately surveyed a continent that would later become inaccessible and then forgotten for millennia? The accuracy of the coastal outlines, particularly when projected onto a modern grid, has astounded cartographers. Charles Hapgood, a professor of history and science, was a prominent advocate for the map's authenticity and its implications. He argued that the map indicated knowledge of advanced navigation and surveying techniques, possibly involving spherical trigonometry, which was not widely understood or applied in Europe until much later. Hapgood, in his book Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, proposed that the original source maps must have been created by a highly advanced unknown civilization that flourished during the last ice age. He suggested that this civilization, which he dubbed the Sea Kings, possessed a global reach and sophisticated scientific knowledge. After their decline, their knowledge was somehow preserved and passed down through various cultures, eventually reaching Piri Reis through a series of intermediaries. This theory, while controversial, offers a potential explanation for the map's anomalies, pushing the boundaries of what we understand about prehistoric human capabilities. Beyond Antarctica, the Piri Reis map also displays remarkable accuracy for the coastlines of South America and Africa. The Amazon River is shown with astonishing detail, including its tributaries, which is extraordinary for a map from that era. The relative longitudes of Africa and South America are also surprisingly accurate, a feat that was notoriously difficult to achieve before the invention of reliable chronometers in the 18th century. Navigators in the 15th and 16th centuries struggled immensely with determining longitude at sea, relying on dead reckoning and lunar observations, which often led to significant errors. The precision on the Piri Reis map suggests a different, more advanced method was employed by its original sources. The cartographic projection used in the Piri Reis map is another point of fascination. It appears to be based on a central projection, where the Earth is projected onto a flat plane from a central point. However, It also incorporates elements that suggest a more complex understanding of spherical geometry. Some analysts have suggested that the map utilizes a technique similar to the equidistant conic projection, which allows for accurate representation of distances and directions from a central point, but distorts shapes towards the edges. This blend of projection techniques, combined with its overall accuracy, points to a sophisticated cartographic tradition that Piri Reis inherited rather than invented. The initial reaction to the map's discovery was one of excitement and intrigue. It was presented to President Hoover of the United States in 1931 and subsequently studied by naval cartographers, including Captain Arlington H. Mallory, who was particularly impressed by its accuracy. Mallory famously claimed that the map's depiction of the Queen Maud Land coast was so precise that it could only have been achieved through aerial surveys. While this assertion is speculative, it underscores the profound impression the map made on those who analysed it. However, the Piri Reis map is not without its critics and alternative explanations. Some scholars argue that the Antarctica depicted on the map is actually a misinterpretation of the South American coastline, perhaps the mouth of the Rio de la Plata, or a purely speculative landmass drawn by ancient cartographers who believed in a southern continent to balance the landmasses in the north. They point to the fact that the map is a fragment and not perfectly aligned with modern projections, allowing for some interpretative leeway. The argument is that Piri Reis, or his sources, simply drew what they thought might be there, based on philosophical concepts rather than actual exploration. Yet, these alternative explanations often struggle to account for the specific details and the overall accuracy of the Antarctic coastline, especially the features that align with an ice-free landmass. The presence of what appear to be rivers flowing into the sea from inland mountains is particularly difficult to explain away if the land is merely speculative or a misidentified part of South America. Rivers of that magnitude would not exist in an ice-covered continent, nor would they be present in the extreme southern tip of South America in the way depicted. The Piri Reis map, therefore, remains a historical anomaly, a powerful piece of evidence suggesting a hidden chapter in human history. It forces us to consider the possibility that our understanding of ancient civilizations and their capabilities is severely limited. Perhaps there were indeed advanced cultures, now lost to time, whose knowledge and explorations far surpassed what we currently acknowledge. The map stands as a testament to the enduring mysteries of our past, a tantalizing glimpse into a world that might have been far more complex and interconnected than our history books currently allow. It is an invitation to look beyond the established narratives and to question the boundaries of what we believe is possible for ancient humanity. The map, with its faded lines and cryptic notes, continues to whisper tales of forgotten explorers and lost worlds, urging us to listen more closely to the echoes of a distant past. It's a testament to the fact that history is not a finished book. It is merely sleeping, occasionally stirring to reveal a forgotten chapter. These impossible artifacts are not just cracks in the glass of our historical understanding. They're invitations to look closer, to question deeper, and to recognize that the story of humanity is longer, stranger, and far more wondrous than we have ever dared to admit. The meticulous detail of the map, even in its fragmented state, speaks volumes about the cartographic traditions from which it sprang. Piri Reis himself was a highly skilled navigator and mapmaker, a product of the sophisticated maritime culture of the Ottoman Empire, which itself drew upon centuries of accumulated knowledge from diverse civilizations. The fact that he chose to incorporate these older charts, explicitly acknowledging their antiquity, suggests a respect for and reliance upon prior knowledge that extended far beyond the immediate contemporary European understanding. This act of compilation, rather than pure invention, underscores the map's significance as a conduit for ancient wisdom. Consider the sheer logistical challenge of surveying an entire continent, let alone one as remote and inhospitable as Antarctica, even in an ice-free state. Such an endeavour would require advanced navigation techniques, robust shipbuilding, and an understanding of global geography that far exceeds what is typically attributed to pre-classical or early classical civilizations. The ability to determine longitude with reasonable accuracy, a persistent problem for European navigators until the 18th century, and the development of the marine chronometer seems to have been a solved problem for the original cartographers of Piri Reis's source maps. This implies either a different technological path or a different scientific understanding entirely. The debate also centres on the role of lost knowledge. Is it possible that a significant body of scientific and geographical understanding was simply lost during periods of upheaval, such as the Bronze Age collapse or the decline of various ancient empires? The Piri Reis map could be a rare surviving fragment of such lost knowledge, a testament to the fragility of human intellectual heritage. The notion that advanced knowledge could simply vanish, only to be rediscovered millennia later, is both humbling and alarming. It suggests that our current understanding of progress is often linear, but history itself can be cyclical, with periods of advancement followed by periods of regression and forgetting. The map's existence also raises questions about the nature of historical evidence itself. How do we reconcile an artifact that seems to contradict established timelines with our existing knowledge? Do we dismiss it as an anomaly, or do we re-evaluate our foundational assumptions? The Piri Reis map serves as a powerful reminder that history is not a static, immutable record, but a dynamic narrative constantly being refined and challenged by new discoveries. Its presence in the Topkapi Palace Library, having lain unnoticed for centuries before its accidental rediscovery, is a poignant metaphor for the hidden depths of our collective past. The precise geographic alignment of the Antarctic coastline on the Piri Reis map with modern seismic surveys of the land beneath the ice is perhaps the most compelling argument for its authenticity. Critics who suggest it's merely a speculative landmass struggle to explain this correlation. The concept of terra australis incognita, the unknown southern land, was indeed prevalent in ancient and medieval cartography, often depicted as a massive continent balancing the northern landmasses. However, these speculative depictions rarely, if ever, showed the specific geological features and coastal contours that are present on the Piri Reis map. This specificity is what lends the map its air of profound mystery and its challenge to conventional timelines. Furthermore, the map's depiction of a landmass that was ice-free suggests a chronological depth that is truly staggering. If the source maps indeed recorded Antarctica before it was covered by its current massive ice sheet, then they must date back to a period before approximately 6,000 BCE, or even earlier, perhaps to the last glacial maximum around 12,000 BCE. This time frame pushes the origins of advanced cartography and global exploration far beyond the Sumerians, Egyptians, or any known classical civilization. It opens the door to the possibility of a truly prehistoric global civilization, one that existed and thrived before the accepted dawn of complex human societies. The Piri Reis map is not just a cartographic curiosity, it is a profound historical challenge. It forces us to confront the limitations of our current historical narratives and to consider the possibility that significant chapters of human history have been lost or forgotten. It is a testament to the enduring power of ancient knowledge and the persistent, often elusive nature of truth in the archaeological record. The map, with its faded lines and cryptic notes, continues to whisper tales of forgotten explorers and lost worlds, urging us to listen more closely to the echoes of a distant past. It's a testament to the fact that history is not a finished book. It is merely sleeping, occasionally stirring to reveal a forgotten chapter. These impossible artifacts are not just cracks in the glass of our historical understanding. They're invitations to look closer, to question deeper, and to recognize that the story of humanity is longer, stranger, and far more wondrous than we have ever dared to admit. Deep within the dusty archives of the Iraq Museum in Baghdad lies a curious artifact, a simple clay jar that has ignited a fiery debate among archaeologists, engineers, and historians for decades. This unassuming vessel, dating back to the Parthian era, roughly between 250 BCE and 224 CE, is known as the Baghdad Battery. Its discovery in 1938 by German archaeologist Wilhelm König near Kujut Rabu, a village southeast of Baghdad, was initially met with mild interest, but its true significance only began to unfold as its peculiar construction was examined more closely. The Baghdad Battery consists of a yellow clay pot, approximately 5.5 inches, 14 centimeters tall, with a bitumen stopper sealing its mouth. Protruding from the stopper is an iron rod, and inside the jar, carefully suspended, is a copper cylinder. This copper cylinder encases the iron rod, creating a small gap between the two metals. The setup is remarkably similar to a galvanic cell, a device capable of producing an electric current. If an acid or alkaline electrolyte such as grape juice, vinegar, or even urine were poured into the jar, A chemical reaction between the copper, iron and the electrolyte would generate a small voltage. Koenig himself was the first to propose that this artifact was indeed an ancient electrical battery. He observed that similar jars had been found with copper and iron fragments, and he noted that the bitumen used as a stopper is an excellent insulator. His hypothesis was that these devices were used for electroplating, perhaps to gild silver objects with gold, or to provide mild electrical currents for acupuncture or other therapeutic purposes. The idea of ancient electricity, however, was so far outside the conventional understanding of ancient technology that it was initially met with widespread skepticism. The prevailing historical narrative holds that electricity was first discovered and understood in the modern era, with figures like Alessandro Volta developing the first true battery in 1800. The notion that an ancient civilization, particularly one from the Parthian period, possessed the knowledge to generate and utilize electricity was, and to some extent still is, considered an anachronism. This is precisely why the Baghdad battery has become such a compelling out-of-place artifact, challenging the established timeline of technological innovation. Numerous experiments have been conducted to test Koenig's hypothesis. Volunteers and scientists have recreated the Baghdad battery using the same materials and dimensions, filling them with various common ancient electrolytes. These replicas have consistently produced voltages ranging from 0.5 to 2 volts. While this is not a powerful current by modern standards, it is certainly enough to perform electroplating, particularly if several batteries were connected in series to increase the voltage. For instance, a series of 10 such batteries could generate 10 to 20 volts, a significant amount for delicate metalwork. The primary argument against the battery hypothesis is that no wires or other electrical components have been found in conjunction with the batteries, nor have any electroplated artifacts from the Parthian period been definitively identified as having been created using this method. Critics suggest that the jars could have been used for storing scrolls, as ritualistic objects, or simply as containers for various liquids. They argue that the arrangement of the copper and iron could be coincidental, and that without direct evidence of its electrical application, the battery theory remains speculative. However, proponents of the battery theory counter that the lack of additional electrical components is not conclusive proof against its use. Ancient wires, made of thin copper or other perishable materials, would be extremely fragile and unlikely to survive millennia of burial. Furthermore, the absence of definitively electroplated artifacts could simply mean that such artifacts have not yet been identified, or that the technique was rare and applied to objects that have not survived. The deliberate construction, with the insulating bitumen and the specific arrangement of dissimilar metals, seems too precise to be purely coincidental for a storage jar. One of the most intriguing alternative uses proposed for the Baghdad battery